So this is a sheet that some of you handed in yesterday, or some of you took pictures of yesterday, or Monday, or whenever it was you did it. If you didn't do it, don't worry too much. This PowerPoint is going up on Show My Homework. This PowerPoint doesn't tell you how to write the comparagraphs. It gives you kind of hints and ideas, but this is a bit that I think you really need to focus on, and this is a bit that I will be putting up on Show My Homework, and this is a bit where it will be just a smidge more interactive, and you know, I might ask you to contribute just a wee bit. But what I've got down the what side is that? That's the left-hand side of the linking statements. Okay, that both poems actually, they begin in a calm way. They present man's relationship with nature. As both poems develop, what they do is they present nature as very powerful and very intimidating, and what they both end up doing is showing that nature is something to be feared. Now, if you know these ideas, you know, you revise these ideas so that if Storm on the Island comes up and you know, oh yeah, that tells me that nature is like really intimidating, actually it's really powerful, then you are able to write your C's paragraphs based around that. So what we're doing is we're kind of producing a revision resource that you can use. So I'll talk you through the first one. Okay, so what we can see is both poems begin in a calm way to present man's relationship with nature. And this is the bit that I'm going to talk about. You can jot down notes if you want. You don't have to jot down notes if you don't want at this stage, but because this video will be, you know, it'll be coming up on YouTube for you. When Heaney writes about we are prepared, we build our houses squat, we just sit tight, what he's really doing is showing that that the people on that island are building defences. Because they're building defences, okay, we are prepared, we just sit tight. There is this awareness that they need a defence, okay? They are aware that nature is not coming to attack them, but they are aware of the danger of nature, that nature can attack them. So within these lines, okay, we have these verbs for defence, and they show an awareness of a need for defence. God, I forgot his name now. Wordsworth, that's him. Wordsworth in the Prelude, okay, for the Prelude, he talks about nature in a different way. He says, one summer evening led by her. Nature is presented here as something that is kind of slightly enchanting, enticing. The fact that he's saying nature leads me is suggesting that nature, that he's at one with nature. Okay, he's very content, he's very happy. When we have the small circles glittering in the moon, okay, this is just the reflection of the moon on the lake as he's rowing across, and he's talking about the sparkling light as well. We've got a real magical semantic field here with the words glittering, with the words sparkling. It seems very delicate, very magical, very special, and the light, okay, the glittering and the sparkling light contrast with the darkness of the night. Okay, so it seems that nature is, in a sense, it's we're comfortable with it. The boy's content, the boy is very happy, and really this contrasts to that kind of imposing side of nature towards the end. So what I'll do is, those are the ideas, and I'm going to show you how to write a C's paragraph later, you know, about 5 minutes based upon those. But I'll just talk you through, and I'll get you to see if you can come up with any ideas. For this second one, as both poems develop, nature is presented as powerful and intimidating. And it's interesting that Heaney uses words that you might think that the sea is company, exploding comfortably down the cliffs, but no. Now this is a volta, and it's a volta because it's a turning point. This is where things begin to turn violent. Volta just means a turning point within the poem. And exploding comfortably is an oxymoron, because how can something that explodes, something that causes damage, how can that be comfortable? The two words kind of oppose each other. And I think what this does is this kind of defies our expectations of what violence is. When he says exploding comfortably, we're like, we can't make head or tail of this. So it defies our expectations of violence. And I think when he says exploding comfortably, what that does is it normalizes violence. It makes us feel as if these islanders are used to it. Okay, they don't talk about the terrible explosions. They say it's exploding comfortably. So it suggests to me perhaps that maybe they're used to it. So it defies our expectations of violence, and maybe violence is normalized. They are used to it. Within these second bits, the second quotations, it blows full blast, it pummels, it spits. What we have there is different forms of violence. Okay, we have it blows full blast. This is violence to do with bombs. We have it pummels. If you pummel someone, you're kind of like beating their body. So it's to do with kind of like fighting, physical fighting. It's like boxing. It spits. Okay, so again, this is a different sort of violence. Okay, this is this COVID era, it's almost like spreading diseases. But you know, this is kind of like more feral violence, that idea that that's the sort of violence you will get in a pub fight. So we got different types of violence here, different styles of violence. So really what that is encapsulating, what that's showing, is that there are all forms of violence within the conflict of the island, and that there are all forms of violence in terms of what nature can give us. Now, if we move over to the Prelude, we have a Volta here, and this is the moment when nature moves from being magical and bright to and safe to something that feels dangerous, something that feels kind of scary. And I'll move to the second quotation, this huge peak, black and huge. Okay, so he's using repetition there. So he's repeated the word huge. It shows the sheer kind of like enormity of the mountain. What I want you to think about, though, and this is a bit because I need to have a quick drink, so I've been talking loads. Look at the word black. Okay, the word black there suggests that it's in shadow, perhaps. Now, if it's in shadow, now you can either shout this out or you can type it in chat. If it's in, why has he put the top of this mountain in shadow? Okay, why might he use the word black to emphasize that the top of the mountain is in shadow? I'll give you like 30 seconds. I was going to get a tumbleweed YouTube video going across in case no one answered, but I didn't get time to do that. See if anyone can work out why is he talking about this mountain in terms of shadow? Right, don't be afraid. Just type it in. Otherwise, I'm going to have to start picking on people. I don't mean picking on people. Choosing people. Volunteers. Right, okie dokie. So the first answer's come up, which is a good answer, to show that even the biggest things can be concealed and that perspectives can be changed. And I think that's quite a perceptive idea. What it's showing is that something that we initially saw as beautiful can now be changed. It's different, it's hidden. And I think if it's hidden, it can evoke maybe a sense of fear. So it's kind of evoking that sense of fear. When he goes on to say it upreared its head, okay, he's showing that maybe it's something that's dormant has now risen up, and it's kind of almost monstrous. So upreared its head suggests that it's kind of almost like a snake. It's like risen up. So something that was once calm has now risen up and potentially is going to be, it's almost like it's trying to attack us. And towered up between me and the stars. I think it's really important that he talks about the stars, because what he's doing is suggesting that even if we consider that the stars might metaphorically represent heaven, he's saying that even God can't help him. It's almost like this boy feels abandoned. Okay, he feels so alone that even God can't help him. We'll move on really quickly because I don't want to run out of time. But ultimately, both poems present nature as something to be feared. And he uses this simile, spits like a tame cat turns savage. And I think it's important that slash is the enjambment. That's where you have on one line spits like a tame cat, and on the next line it turns savage. And I think that's important because, in a sense, what that's doing is showing a sense of unpredictability. We all know what a tame cat is like. If any of you got cats, you know they're quite calm, lazy even. But that moment when they suddenly strike out is very, very quick, and it's very, very shocking. So what he's talking about is how something gentle, something that is normally gentle, can become very, very violent. And there is this sense of unpredictability here that, again, maybe he's linking this to the idea that there are people on that island, people who we would normally see as friendly, people we would normally socialize with, who have changed, who have, and we will link that to the context in a moment. He also uses this military semantic field, so exploding, strafed, to salvo, bombarded, and what that really does is it shows that the violence is organized. The military is organized, and by using that military language, it shows that the violence is organized as well. So it's almost like nature is trying to attack us. Okay, it's almost like it's trying to attack us. Wordsworth, on the other hand, he removes the pleasant side of nature. He says no colours of green fields, no pleasant images. So he repeats the word no, which shows us that the beauty of nature has been removed. I think it's really interesting that he talks about how green has been disappeared, because green is really a colour of nature, and it's also a colour of healing. And it's suggesting that perhaps the healing power of nature is disappearing itself. Okay, so the removal of the delicate side of nature, the magical side of nature, into something that's dark and something that's quite imposing. I'm going to ask you one more question. Type it in if you know it. He talks about huge and mighty forms. Why does he use the word forms rather than focus on specific images? Okay, he uses forms, which encapsulates all of nature. Why does he use the word forms? Because I think that's an important word. And I'll give you 30 seconds. Get typing as quick as you can. Absolutely spot on. Emphasizes his unfamiliarity with the side of nature that he's just experienced. Okay, so he's experienced nature, which is beautiful. Now it's a side of nature that he hasn't experienced, and because he's not experienced it, it means that he's now fearful of it. And I also quite like the idea, you know, if you focus on forms, we have this idea that nature is now undefined. Okay, nature was once defined as something magical, but now he's so fearful of it, he can't define elements of nature. It's just all of nature becomes imposing. I think that's quite a high-endish idea, but it is an idea. So very, very quickly, this is an extension. If you are aiming for kind of like less than sevens, just block this out for a moment. But the extension really is that that extended metaphor that Seamus Heaney was writing in the 1960s. There were growing tensions between the national and unionist groups, which led to the violence and the bombings. And I think that's what links to that idea about the spits like a tame cat turned savage. This idea that people who you lived alongside suddenly turn from being people who you lived alongside to people who were violent. The Prelude really is a poem about, it's a metaphor for growing up, and man's relationship with nature is that the boy is happy with nature at the start, and because the boy is happy, he doesn't realize the power of it. Therefore, he is ignorant of the power of nature. But when he sees the reality of it, when he sees how dark it is, how scary it is, how imposing it is, he realizes that he's actually very, very insignificant. You know, in the greater scheme of things, he is very, very small and very, very insignificant. And what that makes him do is to reevaluate his place in the world. He sees himself at the start of the poem as being very, very important, whereas towards the end, he realizes as a human, we're all very, very insignificant.